Everyone, Pic'n Faith Farm, Heather here. Just wanted to do a garden update. It's almost been 1 month since the last update. We planted everything on Mother's Day, and so I just wanted to do a walk through the garden and do an update for everyone. And most importantly, I like to be able to look back every year and see the progress that we've made. This is beautiful lavender we planted last year, and roses at the house. This is just a perennial flower garden near the house. Been up early already this morning, hung all the laundry out. Take a walk over to the garden. Everything looks great. I already did a walkthrough and thought I better just grab the phone. So along the outside of the garden, we have some grapevines at each post that we will grow along and trellis along the 3 boards going both directions. So they won't be able to do much this year, but as you can see, they were planted last year and the wood becomes hard after the first year. And so they'll look more like you see at vineyards or what is it called? Places that have grapes that grow. Not an orchard. You all know what I mean. I'll probably think of it, but they'll look more woody and they'll go along both sides of the fence and have a little bit more structure next year. And then interplanted all along the fence line are blueberries at every post. And interspersed between them are asparagus, because they're also a perennial. Come back every year, and their roots actually can go down 20 to 30 feet. Asparagus can, which I thought was pretty cool. So our blueberry bushes, they're just starting to ripen. And they take a long time to grow. This is like a 3-year-old plant. So I'm still really waiting for them to jump into production. It'll be probably next year or the year after that they're really pumping out the blueberries. All right. So into the garden. There's Pickles, the cat. Hi, Pickles. We have climbing roses on each side. They had their big first flush. I have to deadhead, well, I've been deadheading them, fed them again, and they will flush out again. This variety is a David Austin variety called Teasing Georgia. And here's the cicada, 17-year cicada. Hopefully they'll be gone soon, because they drive me crazy. They fly into my ear and scream and scare me to death. So they go up over top of this. They'll be better next year. This is their 2nd year. We planted them in the summer of last year. So they're just starting to try to reach the top. I'm not sure if you can see that. And this is made out of just lumber and cattle panels that you can get at any Tractor Supply. They're like 20 bucks for a cattle panel. They're 4 foot by 16 foot. They're very sturdy and you can make all kinds of gardening things. Half of our farm is built with cattle panels, as you can probably see. These are dahlias at the entrance of the garden. And so we'll start over here. This is just a greens bed. We have lettuces. Our spinach is starting to bolt because it's too hot for the spinach, but I'm going to let them go ahead and develop seeds and redrop the seeds so I don't have to plant next year. We have kale. In between all of the leafy things, I put root crops because they don't need a lot of foliage. All of their energy goes into the roots. So I put carrots between, beets between. There's beets down in here. But yeah, beets are right here. So they're planted in between the leaf crop. And then spinach again down here. Another dahlia. They're beautiful. And this is the new part of the garden I just put in this past week. I started off this area, just fenced it in with, again, cattle panels and step-in posts for about, I don't know, 50 feet down by 25 feet wide. And we put down a bunch of old spent hay and let it sit for a couple of months, and then covered it with mulch. We get free mulch from any tree company you can call, they'll deliver it. And then in here I planted 75 sweet potatoes. So each sweet potato should develop 5 to 10 sweet potatoes. So we'll have a good amount in here. Pickles. And then turning around is the main garden where we just came from. So all planted along the border of the outside of the garden are brambles. So we have raspberries and blackberries all along the outside, up against, again, the cattle panel fencing that we use to delineate areas. This is all raspberries. These have not really, Pickles, stop, have not really come into production. He's a pain. He bites me if I don't pay attention to him. But these down here, they're coming on. First one, this is a black raspberry. You have to plant your black raspberries or your yellow raspberries away from your red raspberries. They don't like being planted near each other. So our yellow and our black are up here at the beginning of the garden. Then we have blackberries all the way down. And at the very end, we have our red raspberries. So they said 75 feet of space between the two. I don't know if it's like infection can spread back and forth between them, that one gets that the other can't get, or something like that, that you should not plant them near each other. So I have oh, that's pretty, blackberry flowers, a bunch of little blackberries, and again a Pickles. Gosh, she's my garden cat. First blackberry that I have found for myself. And from one of the other YouTube pages that I have listened to, they say in order to try to get a sweet berry instead of a bitter one, you should wait until they are dull in color instead of shiny. I'd never heard that before. So I'm going to test that theory. So now with the blackberries and the raspberries at my back, this is the view of the garden. It's beautiful. I love this. This is like my happy place. So right here is a 4-foot by 16-foot strawberry bed. And we have we have 5 of them all going down. And in between each one, we have a cattle panel that's arched. You don't really need to secure them in. Just the weight of the pressure of them trying to open back up against these beds is enough to hold them in place. And they make a beautiful arch. And at the bottom of them, I have cucumbers planted. So this is all going to be cucumbers on all of these arches. And then I had a volunteer sunflower. It's already quite large. Popped through in this bed. And strawberries, they like to jump out of their box. So I just let them go because more food. If they get stepped on, they get stepped on. If not, more food. Oh, these cicadas, they scare me. They're everywhere. What is this? I think this is another sunflower that must have been a volunteer. Down here are the red raspberries. They're a little slower to go. We're starting to get some. I already put the horses away for the day, or I'd show them to you as well. All right, back here in these back 4 beds that are right near the woods, so they get less sun, not a whole lot less, but some filtered sun, are all of the brassicas because they are more of a cool weather crop. And so I have them planted back here in these beds. These beds are a little bit bigger, so I also wanted, this was my first bed that I made, not me, but like me and my family. And I made them too wide. I made them 8 foot by 16 foot, and big mistake there, you can't get to the center. So in these beds, I decided to put something that I don't really need to worry about until they're done. So this whole bed is Brussels sprouts, which is one of our favorites. They grow up the stalk, and all of these little things right here, they're Brussels sprouts. They take like 120 days. They take a long time. You just plant them and forget them. And then all of these arches again. I have 2 on each one of these, so there's 6 arches back here. There's beans planted on all of them, waiting for them to come up through. I had to pull some cauliflower in order to get the beans planted. So here is a big cauliflower. I have some really pretty purple in here. Let me see if I can find one. Oh, it's so pretty. Purple cauliflower. And then there's I think it's called butter or something. It's a yellow. And at the back of the rows, more in the shade where it's much more moist, because when it rains, water runs down this gully basically, are hydrangeas. So that when you look through each archway, you see a beautiful flower. So, this I found in the woods when we moved in. It's an old cedar. So I just brought it up to the garden and planted zinnias in it last year. Well, I didn't plant the zinnias last year. I brought it up to the garden last year. Okay, so that's the cauliflower bed. Doing amazing. Baby beans just starting to break the surface that will cover these archways. This next bed here, as you can see, the hydrangeas are at the end of the archways. This next bed here is broccoli. They're just starting to come on. And this last bed is cabbage. And they're doing amazing. They're probably doing the best, and then the cauliflower is doing the second best as far as the brassicas are concerned. Well, I guess I don't really know how the Brussels are doing. They're going to take a while. But the broccoli's slow to go. They look beautiful. And then all wild raspberries outside the fencing. And then there's all that goat fencing that we put up. So when I pull stuff from in here, I can just throw it right over the fence to the goaties. Moving over to the second row of beds, we have onions planted. They're doing great. They take a long time, so they'll be sitting here for a while. Another plant it and forget it, other than weeding. And then I have some winter squash that I planted at the end, because winter squash, unlike zucchini or yellow squash, winter squash like to travel. So they will vine out all over this area. And since this is an area that I don't walk often because the brassicas take such a long time, I planted them at the end of all of these gardens so that they can just flop over and, oh, there's a cicada in my ear. Oh! So they can go all through here and won't get damaged by someone walking on them often. I thought that was a good use of space, just putting them at the end of the gardens. And in the corner of all of my beds, I planted zinnia seeds because they're my favorite. And they look beautiful when they come up. And you might not be able to see that because of the sun. They look beautiful when they come up. And you have little pops of color and you're bringing in pollinators to your garden. It's always a good thing. This bed is full of different types of beans and one big volunteer squash, which I let him, no, 2 volunteer squash. I let them both stay. And we have flowers, and it's buzzing with bees already this morning. I have multiple varieties of beans in here. I just interspersed them. These are bush beans. So bush beans are kind of like determinate tomatoes. They have a determined amount of produce that you will get, and then they pretty much die off. Indeterminate tomatoes and pole beans are different. They will keep producing and keep producing until a hard frost comes. So these are all bush beans. So we have some purple potted beans, as you can tell, and then some regular green beans down there. And a cat who's still following me. This bed is all beets. Drop the beet. Oh, I'm so funny. And again, little zinnias coming up. And the next bed up was all greens. They're going to be pulled out soon and replanted. I guess I'm going to do more tomatoes. I don't know. I have so many tomato starts left over. If anybody local to me wants one, let me know. But here is spinach. Some are doing good. I'm not sure the different varieties. I wish I knew for you. I will do better next year. And some are bolting and reseeding. So I wish I knew which ones were holding their own and not bolting yet. Probably Bloomsdale long-standing spinach, but I'm not quite sure. Look at this beautiful head of lettuce. Gorgeous. Spotty germination in this bed, as you can see. The seeds for greens, carrots and greens, spinach, kale, lettuces are so small that they could have easily been washed away by a heavy rain, or a heavy rain could have buried them too deep for them to germinate. Next bed is going to be tomatoes. These are all tomatoes that I grew from seed. I never knew how to do it. I know that sounds dumb, but I've been working on it for 2 years now. I again didn't plant them early enough. Like I should have done it back in February. I didn't do it until the end of March, so they're behind. But these are a whole bunch of different varieties of heirloom, beautiful tomatoes. I have probably 50 different varieties that I started. Here's another bed of cabbage, because I didn't have any more room back in my cabbage bed. So I had to sacrifice one of my smaller beds. This monster of a bed, which looks crazy, is all just potatoes. If you look at the last video, you'll see how this bed looked empty. And we just planted potatoes every 6 inches or so. You just take potatoes that have eyes. You can buy them at your local co-op or the mill or Tractor Supply, or buy organic potatoes at your grocery store that have not been sprayed, and cut them up and put them in the ground, and you will have potatoes. Oh, another cicada. Did you guys hear that? And this is really exciting. I'm just now seeing this. Our very first potato flower. Don't mind me. That was a cicada. Scared